Hello, this is Evil O, Owazwo X Wazwo, coming to you from Delhi again. And today I'm really happy because it's a nice, beautiful Sunday morning, and I'm sitting with Seema Kohli.
And I'm sitting with Evil O. Oh my God.
And I really like Seema Kohli a lot. She's so sweet and so wonderful. She has a fabulous studio, which we're in just a little of. And I love you dearly as a person, but I don't know that much about your art actually. So today we're going to explore that, okay? So let's start a little bit with feminism.
Yeah, I could be slaughtered as a feminist because I do talk about the feminine, and I do consider that to be the ultimate source of power, of energy, of existence. And I like to sort of put feminine above the gender, right? So somewhere down the line, I consider that to be the supreme, that to be something which sort of engulfs everything. And this probably started very early in my life. I did not realize that this would be the concept, or this, like you choose a concept. It was not that. Mostly my work depends on what I'm usually thinking and I'm working with. And this was the thought probably very prevalent in my early life. And that's how I started. I was usually painting women and about the extraordinary existence that is there because of the feminine. And so it became, it's been almost 30 years that I've been working. It's not that it's just one thing that I work on, and that is the feminine. There are various aspects that I work on. So.
I just want to interject a little bit. There might be a little like bubbling sound at the back of that. That's a beautiful fountain we're sitting next to. So
should
if you hear that,
it off or something?
Should we switch it off?
Yeah.
We'll take a break and switch it off. Okay, so we took a little break and just shut off the fountain.
Yes.
Okay, that was a good explanation, but I guess what I'm aiming at more is it feminism, like doctrinaire feminism, or is it more like Earth Mother, woman's issues? Because I see more like Earth Mother things in your art.
Of course, Earth Mother things, but it sort of touches all aspects. It cannot be just about nature, environment, Earth Mother, traditional ways of looking at the feminine, the mythologies, the world mythologies about the feminine, about the goddess aspect. Of course, those are there, but the physicality of it is also important. And that's what I sort of, it touches the edges of that, and somewhere I've only been able to work on the beauty of it, the beauty of being the feminine, the beauty of constant creation, collaboration, proactivity. So it is that aspect I work on.
There's a lot of positivity in your artwork. I see quite a bit of positivity. And
I think because I am a severely positive person.
Right.
Somewhere down the line.
See, your work seems more like a celebration, not a criticism. It's more of a celebration of the feminine, the way I see it. Yes.
Sure.
And you brought up mythology. I see that mythology is very important. Do you make reference to particular mythologies? Like I know that you had a series on Kandamenu. Am I saying that right? The bull and the cow.
Yes, Kamdenu.
Kamdenu.
Yeah,
I never say that right. Kamdenu.
Yeah, Kamdenu.
But do you sometimes invent your own mythology?
Yes, that's what I enjoy, because I personally feel that these are narratives which sort of build up our bring about various it goes to the foundations, and then it brings about different narrative stories to feed our present existence. Somewhere down the line, sort of they condition us. At the same time, they I am not having the right word for it. It sort of justifies our existence of today. And mythologies, I don't only refer to one particular sect or one particular tradition or culture. I like to read world mythologies, and I like to sort of connect them all, and they mostly all of them have some relevance to each other. They are talking about the same aspects of existence, of life, of...
So are you sort of like Fraser's golden bough kind of thing, that the archetypes,
Yes.
that underlie everything, many mythologies and many cultures, but they all have basic narrative structures
Yes.
and stories.
Yes,
Okay.
and somewhere down the line they resonate with each other, and that is the beauty of referring to different cultures. And also it puts you in a space where you become one of them. You are not the only one. So that's very important.
Let's talk about some series in particular, like your Golden Womb series.
Yes,
Would
the
you like
Golden
to talk
Womb
about the Golden Womb
series.
series?
Yeah. I had been working on the equality of gender because now that it is right to have patriarchy or matriarchy or something, but the present system of the world system runs on patriarchy, and which somewhere down the line doesn't go with my sense of equality. And I was basically working on the equality of both the genders. I was not considering anything else. That this was, I'm talking about in 80s or even earlier than that. And then in late 90s, I came about this beautiful concept of the golden womb, of Hiranyagarbha, which was at the time of my mother's demise. And I think I just fell in love with this whole idea of constant procreation. There's nothing as death, positive procreation, everything is merging, and just a change of energy is happening, and how it is diversifying. But it is not only just this aspect that I looked into. I was looking into everything. I started to look into, even while I'm painting, how that painting is developing and how that is moving from one thought to another, how those thoughts which are being diminished at one point are re-emerging as something else again in your work. And it's a constant love affair, I think, and the joy of seeing things change in front of you. But when you go down to the gist, it is just what it was probably earlier. And this is how the concept...
When you were talking about the matriarchy and the patriarchy, I remember, Western Civ classes I really like poo-pooed now, but actually I learned a lot from them because I'm of that age I took them. And one of the things is when you went back to old Roman and Greek gods and goddesses, and you learned about basically earth gods and sky gods,
Yeah.
and I thought that was always a very wonderfully balanced way of looking at things, and I still see that in India with the polytheism that is in India. And I think that the intrusion of the monotheistic religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism,
Yes.
really lost that. Suddenly they became totally patriarchal, and they lost that matriarchal essence that was part of the older religions.
And that's the reason I think Sufism came about, the softness of the being the feminine. And so these all these Sufi saints, all these Kalandars, they saw themselves as wooing their
and then the other thing you were mentioning about how everything sort of is one and one thing, like death becomes rebirth, basically.
Rebirth.
And I found that in Walt Whitman so strongly, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
that was Walt Whitman was very important to me. It was like, yeah, you die and you come back as a blade of grass, you know. I mean,
Yes.
that was a beautiful concept for me.
Yeah, you are the sky, you are the water, and this whole feeling. And while you are physically there, a part of you, if you feel, is a part of your existence. I think that's a beautiful emotion, and I think this is an emotion which sort of brings about a lot of harmony, and it is very relevant today. It is very relevant today when you start feeling the elements which are within you as a part of somebody else. You belonging to the same womb, you have the same space, the same. So where is the problem? You know, there can be differences, but there is no problem. We belong to the same space, we belong to the same elements, we belong to the same umbilical cord which is being extended, and that's how the lotuses became very important in my work. It had no other relevance, no traditional, no religious purpose in my work, except the fact that when that really happened in my life, and I saw this pond in my house, in my farm, and it had beautiful lotuses, and when I visited next time, the Mali had not filled the pond. It was a man-made kind of a pond. He had not filled it with water, and all the lotuses had dried because it was summer. And I was so upset, and I said, "ये तो खत्म हो गया, इतना मुश्किल से मैं ढूंढ के लाई थी, and you know ये हो गया, वो हो गया, you know." But then there were rains, and after the rains, when I went back, the lotuses were back. The roots had again sort of blossomed into beautiful lotuses, and I could see which root and which stem belonged to which lotus. They were so entangled, and that's how the lotuses became very important in my work. And I feel that we don't have to really go down to, if we have to go down to where we belong, it is one single space.
You're such an interesting person, and I really don't want to go down the road of your education and all of that, because I do that many times with younger artists, like, where have you come from, blah, blah, blah. But you're so fascinating. And is there anything you do want to say about how you got into art at all? Do you want to touch on it? Or no?
I think it was a therapy given to me by my dad at the age of 2.5, 3, like I wouldn't speak and all that, and I was told by a psychoanalyst that please give her some colors and she'll be fine. And I had found my love, and I still have it.
And you still have it, right?
Yes.
Right.
That was my first love, and it stayed with me,
And
I stayed with it.
now you're exhibiting all over the world.
Yes.
And you've even had pieces.
You know,
the museum. What's the name of the museum in?
Museum of Sacred Arts.
Yeah, what is that? In Denmark or?
That is in Brussels.
Brussels.
That was very
Okay.
recent. I have my works at the Rubens and various other places also. Yes, and you know, like I feel it may be with all the artists, but I'm talking about my own journey just now. So this art was my best friend. It is my lover. It is my everything. But at the same time, it also plays the role of my mother, as you say. That you're exhibiting all over the place. It also is taking care of me,
Nurturing
me, and in all possible ways, yes.
So lately you've been doing something that to me seems like out of your usual oeuvre, and that you've moved, because normally your mediums are, you do printmaking, like this behind us, this beautiful etching, but you normally use, what are your mediums? When you normally work on paper and canvas.
I work on paper and canvas, that I think in line Vasco. I like to, I can't say I'm a sculptor, like I think like a sculptor, because I don't see things as 3D in my mind. I don't think.
You're more line than form.
Yeah, more line than form. So everything comes from my drawings, my canvases, and my paperwork. I would love to do more of my paperwork, but that actually get sidelined and canvases overtake. And then
I love works on paper. I don't know why so
Yeah.
many collectors want canvas. It
you
drives
know,
me
so
crazy.
it becomes,
Works on paper are so beautiful, but
and it takes, I think it's such a intimate medium to work on because you are right on it, and it is right. It is the connection is mind, your body. Everything is sort of in tandem with each other. And then of course I love to do zinc plate etchings, though it is again very difficult to show zinc plate like etchings anywhere. It is thanks to Latitude that we were able to show some work. Very rarely are the etchings shown. But I
Bhavna
think,
put together a good show.
yeah, really a good show. And so I tried to do serigraphs right here in my studio, but it was actually with all the acid and all the chemicals, it was very difficult to do it here. So we have very few studios where we can go and do these things. And so my place in Goa, I try to do printmaking there. So it is nice. And then there is sculpture, which
Yeah, talk about the sculptures, because that to me is new
Yeah.
for you. How did you decide to do sculptures? And you're working with somebody for that effort to do the sculptures, yes? You
yes,
wanna
yeah.
Talk
of
about
course.
that a little
Yeah,
bit?
fiber, I do my own maquettes. Even bronze, I'd like to do my small maquettes. So you can see one of the maquettes here which I'm working on. And I do work in collaboration with other artists who are working. So I have a team of people like bronze casters and fiber casters. Fiber casters are right here in Delhi.
And you want to tell them a little bit about those sculptures? You recently had an exhibition in a park garden sort of
Yes,
space.
Sundar
right?
Nursery. It was a huge. Actually, that work I started to do in 2011 as I had completed a show on matrikas and I had visited Orissa. And over there, I met some of the sculptors who were working on stone, and I was overwhelmed because, as it is, the idea of Chaucer Yogini, I had worked in etchings. I had done a complete series of 64 yoginis in etchings, and then I thought, why not transfer the whole thing into 3D, which was a very difficult kind of a thing. And these yoginis were totally my own kind of creation. They were not traditional. So while I was doing that and I was working with the traditional artist, I realized that I cannot just break away and have all the yoginis myself. Because it has emerged from the idea of the traditional form. So I had 34 of the traditional yoginis and 34 my own, 32 and 32 my own yoginis. So it was a very difficult kind of a thing, working with artisans who were not, like I was not in close proximity. So going there and coming back and explaining it to them and learning, because I never made jewelry or stuff on my my drawings and the yoginis, which they said that if it is a yogini, she must wear something, some jewelry has to be there.
Okay.
So I added that, and they also understood that these were forms which were artistic forms, that these were not really goddesses that I was trying to depict. But at the same time, we were both learning from each other. There were a lot of hiccups while working with the artisans, because they are artists only. I have to use the word artist because from their point of view, what thing was not so important, I found it very important, and what was very important to them. So we always had, a lot of that, why have you done this without asking me? This is my work, remember, this is my work. So it was...
I'm aware of that situation a bit.
Yeah, yes, of course you would know. So leaving aside all those things, my bronze caster, who is an artist himself, it's very easy to work with him because he is an artist himself, and he's got his own casting unit in Jaipur by the name of Artist Foundry, and I think he's working with so many artists that he has no qualms in doing whatever the artist says, so it's easier to work there. And just now I'm also working with weavers of Panipat. There's an initiative, Raj initiative, I'm working with them. So we are coming about with a body of works of mine, which will be showcased in Delhi. So working with them also was a great pleasure because they are used to making rugs and carpets, and so for them to sort of move to this kind of a medium where there were drawings and they were thinking to use a different kind of a weave, and I was thinking of a different. So it is. I love this.
It's fun to work with craftsmen or
and
other
I love
artists.
this whole idea of learning constantly something new, and that's the reason probably I like to transform. I keep transforming my works to different mediums. I really don't think like क्या होगा, कैसे होगा. I like to plunge. I just say, okay, let's go ahead and see, experiment. If it is not good, we can always move ahead.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So where do you see your direction now for the future? What do you have any projects that you're undertaking currently?
Yeah, I'm working on a huge sculpture. It's about 20 feet high.
Oh my God.
For Supreme Court. So
That's huge.
Yes,
for the
it's
Supreme Court, really?
Yes,
Oh.
for the new building. So I'm busy with that. I'm going tomorrow to Jaipur for that only. And that is one of the most immediate things. Then there is my own show coming up next year. After 10 years, I'll be showing my complete paintings.
You're having a solo.
Yeah, having a solo.
Okay, good.
So busy with that. Really trying to see what all I can do with it.
I'm sorry I'm munching on this.
Please,
I
you
I
can.
hope my mic doesn't pick this up.
That's okay.
There was another question that occurred to me. It might be kind of a strange question, but it seems like we're entering sort of dark times now. You've got coronavirus going on, the political situations all over the world are in conflict. I think we're kind of entering dark times. Maybe I'm being pessimistic. How do you see celebratory art in dark times? You understand?
Yes.
Can it relate? Does the art have to change then in some way? I mean, I'm asking myself this question with my own cute little figure. I don't hate to use the word that cute, but people call it cute, so I picked it up myself. And we have worked in some dark motifs sometimes in some of my work, but it's like, does art have to get darker now to reflect the dark times? I guess that's the question.
See, it is a very personal, for me, art is a very personal journey. I don't take myself to be an activist, and reflecting dark times, it's important for some artists, and I totally appreciate it. Why not? Some artists are working only with the environmental issues. It is their choice. Working with the present social, economic or political scene, whatever it is happening, religious, it's absolutely fine to do that. But for me, I talk of love, I talk of giving, I talk of celebration. I still see somewhere beauty. And I feel that it is so important to not let that go out of our lives. Only yesterday I met a very young man, and so depressed, and he was just going on saying, I'm so depressed, I just don't know, there's nothing ahead that I see, I've lost so many friends during whatever. So all I could just look at him and was saying, you're a creative person. Why are you not expressing this creatively in whatever way? So I think it is very important to keep expressing in these dark times, whatever way we can, but to necessarily pick up this topic of whatever dark times we are seeing.
I almost feel you can't force yourself and say, oh,
I
my art
can't.
has to express
Yeah.
dark times now. I think it will come naturally because we start feeling that way.
Yeah.
We start feeling that, and at least with my art, it's more of a personal narrative many times. And so it's like when I'm feeling depressed and whatever, that transforms into my art.
Sure.
And when I'm feeling more humorous and comical, that transforms into my art. You know, so I'm sure it will be the same for you. It'll
Yes.
be a natural evolution or
Evolution.
expression as you go
Yeah,
on.
because there was time I would never discuss politics, but I am discussing now. It has come right to my door. I wouldn't discuss, any other thing. I wouldn't like to watch television. I wouldn't like to read a newspaper. But whatever is happening, coronavirus is just right there. I can't avoid it. But of course, the masks have not come to my painting. That was
Right.
that
Well,
was
yeah.
the best part of
There's
it.
that saying that you can ignore politics, but politics won't ignore you.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I can be highly political, but for me, I sort of separated that from my art. And it's because
Yeah.
to me the art is more personal and intimate and expressive.
It
I
is a
want to be
personal
human emotions. I
journey.
don't want to become
Yeah.
propaganda, you know.
Because I feel art is something very internal. It is something so close to you. You're expressing your innate feelings, and your expression is, or your language is your line. That is the only way you express. So I do not dilute that at any point. Actually, when I'm painting, I do forget whatever is happening around. And I do expect my work to make the viewer forget everything else but love and peace, and there is joy. These are the expressions of a human form. And I think if we are deprived of all this, we deprive ourselves of all this, we would be doing something very violent to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's very important according to me. I feel not to let this go. Sit down, watch a flower for some moments, play with your pets, your animals around. It's so important to have few animals. Maybe it is a dog on the road or a cat or even the fish right here.
I used
very
to,
important.
part of my history is when I was in college, I used to write these rather grim short stories in my creative writing classes, which I took a lot of, and because I was rather good at writing, you know, but my stories oftentimes be very sort of dark and grim, and my mother would go crazy. Why do you write these stories? You're always laughing and telling jokes, and then your stories are so dark, you know, like that. But, you know, my mother used to say, you know, art is to bring some beauty into the world. And that sounds rather superficial sometimes, but there's a lot of truth in that too. I mean, that is one of the functions of art, is to bring some beauty and happiness into the world.
Only if an artist feels so. Like for
Yeah.
me, beauty is very important. For me, actually beauty is important. It's something that I look at. Even the worst things, I would probably see the beauty in it or the positive side of it. And I don't think we should be letting it go. And it should not be forced. There are artists who don't feel it, but that's okay. They should, because then that is their conviction.
Right.
You know, whatever comes, it should have your conviction to
People
back
should
it.
do their own thing. So this has run long. I've got the
Yes.
automatic cutoff from the camera. That means we're over our 30
Over.
minutes. So I just have to wrap this up. Seema Kohli.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
In
you
the
so
age of
much.
coronavirus, we can
Yes,
only
we
do the
can only do
namaste.
this.
Okay, and thank you all for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe. Really helps when you do that. Please like and subscribe, share. This is Waswo X Waswo, Evil O, sitting with Seema
Thank you so
Kohli.
much. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank
Wave
you,
goodbye. Bye.
Bye. I can call you Evil O. Can I?
Okay.
Okay. Hello, Evil O.